Tonight is September 3rd, 2019. We're in volume 2 of Tzurim Rabbanon, starting a new section of Yordeya. Hilchas Gerus, conversion. Unlike many other religions, Judaism does not encourage those who are not members of the faith to convert. Nevertheless, those who wish to convert become part of God's people of their own accord are welcomed into the faith, provided that their intentions are sincere and that they are ready to accept the responsibility of fulfilling the Torah mitzvos. Indeed, there are numerous prohibitions in the Torah against harming and embarrassing a convert, attesting to the importance of treating them properly. I want to quote the Gemara that's brought in the footnote 2. There's a Gemara in Yevamos that converts are difficult for the Jewish people like a leprous sore on the skin, indicating that accepting converts should not generally be encouraged and may even be harmful spiritually to the Jewish people. On the other hand, the Gemara states that Hashem exiled Israel among the nations only so that converts can join them. That's in Psachim 87b, implying that accepting converts is a positive endeavor and even part of the whole purpose for our exile among the nations. Although there are a number of interpretations of these statements, one approach may be that the first statement refers to converts that were insincere and wrongly accepted. That's why they're problematic for the Jewish people. While the second refers to sincere converts who truly believe in the mission of the Jewish people and the acceptance of the Torah. Okay. So back to the introduction. The basic halachic process of gerus or conversion requires 3 elements. Mila, circumcision for a male. Obviously a female doesn't need that. Tvila, immersion in mikveh. And kabbalas mitzvahs, accepting the obligation to fulfill the Torah's commandments. As we will see, the practical applications of these steps is detailed and complex. Many of the basic sources in the Talmud and Rishonim are scattered, and the applications of some of the fundamentals are complicated. So the whole sugya, we will build step by step. This year, first we'll focus on some of the most common contemporary halachic issues related to conversion. Just outside, I will say that the most difficult aspect today is the issue of Kabbalah's mitzvos, particularly people who want to convert, but they don't necessarily want to be Orthodox. All the Russians, for example, there's 1 million Russians who came to Israel. They see 80% of the Jews around them are chilonim. They're born Jewish, but they see that's how they practice Yiddishkeit. They don't practice all of the things. So a lot of these people, they come to Bezdin and they say, I want to be Jewish like my neighbor. He's like he is. So, but we'll see there are applications in Gerus where what is considered a full acceptance of mitzvos? And if you know that the person is not going to be performing all the mitzvos afterwards, can you perform such a Gerus? And is the Gerus reversed retroactively or not? That's the most difficult Indian that we're going to deal with.
And then if he converts and he agrees to do it and then he goes back, does he lose?
Well, that's the point. That's what we just said. Is it reverse? What is the status? Can the gerus be removed, etc.? So we're going to deal with all of those very complicated issues. Although, as we will see, there were always individuals interested in converting for ulterior motives, in recent times this phenomenon has increased significantly, both in the Golus as well as in the state of Israel. I'm reading the footnote. In order to ascertain that potential converts are truly sincere and are familiar with basic Jewish law, the current practice in most places is for the conversion process to be a lengthy one that could take many months, including attending extensive classes, as well as residing in a neighborhood with religious Jews. They are often matched up with a religious family with whom they can share Shabbat and Yom Tov and experience other aspects of religious Jewish life. So, many of the people who are coming to convert are not necessarily interested in fully adopting a Torah lifestyle and may convert simply because their spouse is Jewish or because in Israel they wish to become part of Israeli society. This challenge raises a number of halachic questions related to the process of gerus. If a potential convert does not wish to accept the responsibility to fulfill all the mitzvahs upon himself, may you convert him at all? Is it possible to convert him? Now, let's say the convert does agree to fulfill the mitzvahs properly, but does not lead a religious lifestyle following the conversion. Is the conversion nullified retroactively? Third, is it permitted to convert a Gentile who was previously living with a Jewish partner and is now interested in converting and living a fully Jewish lifestyle? So all of these questions relate to the importance of accepting the Torah mitzvahs as part of the conversion process. The requirement of such a declaration is evident from the Gemara and Brachos that we're going to quote. Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Ton Rabbanan. Goy shebala kabel divrei Torah. Chutz midavar echad. A Gentile comes and says, "I want to convert, but one of the 613 mitzvahs, I don't want to observe that. Ein makabel noso." So we can't accept such a declaration. Rav Yosef Bar Yehuda Omer, afilu digduk echad medivrei sofrim. Not just one of the Taryag mitzvahs. We understand that we have thousands of rabbinic details within every mitzvah. For example, it says lo tasem lacha on Shabbos. There's 39 malachos. This all the Rabbanon go through all of that. They're midoraisa, but the various digduke Rabbanon. That means, according to Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, if a person doesn't accept even a little rabbinic knetch in how to perform a certain mitzvah, that would also be a reason to reject his gerus.
So why is it that if someone's not converted, a regular Jew, that doesn't follow halakha?
But he's born Jewish. There's no. That's it. He's a Yisrael Mummerhu. He's a Yisrael who is a violator. So there's a Mummer. He may not serve as an aide. He may not write a letter in a Sefer Torah. He may not be able to serve as a convict and a minion. There are certain halachic ramifications, depending if you do it before Hesed, depends what, is it Shabbos, is it Avodah Zarah? So, but once you're born a Jew, you remain a Jew. Even if you convert to Christianity, you're a Meshumit, but you're still a Jew. Okay, so you understand, so a Gentile coming to convert to Yiddishkeit is a much more complicated issue. Okay. From the ruling that a Gentile may not be converted if he refuses to accept even one halacha, we can derive that a convert must accept all of the mitzvahs in the Torah upon himself. Now, this is one of the most important tshuvas we're going to learn. According to Rav Chaim Ozer Grodzinski in the Achiezer, Rav Chaim Ozer was the Gadol Hador. He passed away in 1940. Lived in Vilna, was the Av Bezdin, appointed at a very young age, and he served as the Av Bezdin for 20, 30 years in Vilna. In Vilna.
But he moved afterwards?
No, he died in Vilna in 1940.
He did die he died in Vilna?
In Vilna. And he died before the Holocaust. So Rav Chaim Ozer sent the Chazon Ish from Vilna to Eretz Yisrael to continue, and the Chazon Ish became the Gadol in Eretz Yisrael under. No,
In Vilna, he was the Rosh Hashiva.
the Chazon Ish was a
No,
private
Rav
individual.
Chaim Ozer.
Nobody knew the Chazon Ish for 50 years. He was learning like by himself, and he became a Gadol sort of by himself. Only when in Eretz Yisrael he established the Kolel Chazon Ish and became them. But Rav Chaim Ozer was really everyone, like Rav Moshe Feinstein was in America, Rav Chaim Ozer was pre-war Europe. And he was also very strongly involved in politics. He was a supporter of Aguda. He was a supporter of the Agudas Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael. So he was a very important person. Now, his Shalos and Shuvas are called the Achiezer. He said the conversion is not valid only where a person explicitly refused to accept one of the mitzvahs. By contrast, where there is merely a concern that he might not keep all of the mitzvahs following the conversion, but he never actually declared such an intention, he may be converted. So, Reb Chaim Ozer is the lenient opinion regarding this issue today, that as long as they come to Bezdin and they say they're going to accept all the mitzvahs, you may convert him. What happens afterwards is a different story.
As long as he keeps his mouth shut, doesn't say.
Ernie, my son was performing a wedding under the chuppah. It's a true story. The guy was a Jewish Kohen, married a girl. She was Jewish. totally Jewish, but she said, I'm gonna tell you, Jack, under the chuppah, that I'm never gonna go to a mikvah.
But she was
She
Jewish
so upset.
already.
She was very Jewish, but she told me she's not going into a mikvah. Now, are you still allowed to, I guess you're still allowed to marry her.
Well, that's a,
she was born a
is
Jew.
She's
this?
Jewish.
She's born a Jew still.
So,
So you tell
Well,
me.
no, it might not be because the father is a whole mishmash thing. It's not that simple. But
Thanks for
born
the
a Jew,
details.
she can say
Mishmash.
if she wants to.
Well, but he has a right to
They
say, I
last
don't
for
want to
2
marry
weeks
you.
in marriage.
But he has a
Lasted
right
2
to say.
weeks?
2 weeks.
How were the hors d'oeuvres?
Gerard, I got a question
He's
for
a
you.
multi-millionaire.
All right, look around the table here. You tell me somebody who's being Mekayim all 613 mitzvahs. You name it.
Rav Chaim Ozer,
Impossible.
Rav Chaim Ozer is saying the following: if the convert makes a declaration, I'm not before in the Gerus process. He says, I'm accepting all the mitzvahs except for one of the mitzvahs. You may not convert him, as long as he accepts all the mitzvahs. What happens afterwards? Rav Chaim Ozer says that's a different story. Because let's see how he says it. Nira de din zeh. The Nochri Shabali his Gayer ulakabalav kol hamitzvahs chutz midigdukecha b'divrei surah from Dei Mekabel so. He's quoting the Gemara in Bechoros that says that if a convert refuses to accept even one of the rabbinic digdukim, you don't accept him. Hainu b'masna shelo lekabel v'shiyei muter lo davar zeh min adin. That's only if he makes a conditional statement that he's not going to be makabelit, and it's got to be completely permitted to him in adin. Bazeh ein makabel noso. The ein shirat nai begerus vein gerus l'chatzon. There's not such a thing as a half a gerus, and there's not such a thing that you could do. You can be partial gerus. Avol b'mish makabel lav kol mitzvahs. If he says yes, I will be makabel all the mitzvahs. Rak shebedaito laver l'tei ovom. Perhaps in his mind, he says, you know what? I may walk by a McDonald's and I know I have a very strong Yetzer Hara, and I might, out of desire, want to eat a hamburger. Ein zeh chisor b'din kabbalas hamitzvos. He knows himself. He knows what his inclinations are. I want to accept all the mitzvahs, but in his mind, he's thinking maybe I might slip. That's not a chisor in the Gerus, says Reb Chaim
I'll
Ozer.
tell you what happened. Somebody, a guy was right from the office, and when she came to Esti, she asked Esti, they're going to ask me if I'm going to be Shomer Shabbat. I want to be Shomer Shabbat, but I don't know if I'll be able to Mekai.
But the key word in what you just said.
no.
I want to be.
Okay, so-
You hear what Walter said? Since she said, I want to accept Shabbos, I have reservations. That's exactly the case of Chaim
I'm
Ozer.
saying, so Esti said to her, you'll say that you're going to be Shomer Shabbat. You don't know what will be in the future. So she became Shomer Shabbat, and she's Shomer Shabbat till today. I mean, it went through hard stages, but that's what happened.
There you go. Nevertheless, it's not so partial with Reb Chaim Ozer either, that when it is clear that he does not plan to fulfill the mitzvos, it is considered as if he had stated so explicitly. Ulam, heicha shebor hadavar, if the Bezdin sees very clearly, shebavada yavor achrechin al isurei Torah,
Nechora, he could only be Magaya in Eretz Yisrael. Because if you have to be Makabel all the mitzvahs, we can't be Makabel all the mitzvahs.
Because mitzvahs.
We know for sure.
Yeah.
So if he's, you know the guy
the
works
only
on Shabbos.
problem would be if a person says, I'm being Megai, but I'm not going to accept that mitzvah. You got to be, it's not us, we don't have the ability to accept that
rejects
mitzvah.
a mitzvah.
He rejects a
Yeah,
mitzvah.
In other words, he says that mitzvah I'm not gonna.
That's going to be a
So
problem.
they,
And not only that now, even though he didn't state something explicitly, Bezdin is not stupid. When they meet the person, I'm going to just read the Chaim Ozer's words. Shabor hadavar shebavada yavor achrechin al isurei Torah chilul Shabbos v'achilas trefus. We see who this guy is. He's coming to tell us he's going to convert, but we somehow know that afterwards he's going to be machalo Shabbos. He's going to eat trefus. Va'anu yodim bebirur kavanaso, and we know his kavana she'enim is guy rak lifnim v'libu balimo. He's only doing it outwardly, but he's not sincere on the inside. Harei umdina demuchach. That's a halachic term. And umda de muchach is like a fact that's in front of us. You can't ignore it. Shemasha oimer shemakabel of a mitzvahs lav klumhu. The fact that he's with his mouth saying, I want to accept the mitzvahs, it's meaningless. Im kain zeu chisor mekabelas mitzvahs to ma'akev. And that would be a chisor. So again, what that getter, he doesn't give you a very strict getter, but he says if somehow the Bezdin knows that this is just a joke, and tomorrow he's going to be Machal Shabbos, something like that, and he's not sincere in his gerus,
Well, you look at
that's
the
a reason to
spouse.
accept.
You look at the spouse. If you see the spouse is a Jew but a goy, you know there's going to be a problem there.
Say it again?
But you look at the spouse. If the
A
spouse is marrying a
non-religious
ger,
Jew.
you know the spouse is not from, right? So you know for sure the woman's not going to
Excuse me, why is that? That's not okay. That's not
No,
necessary.
that's
You have
why.
a sincere ger who's converting. Why
She
get
wouldn't be.
Yeah, and
Maybe
maybe,
it's
and
not even
maybe,
a married
and
person.
maybe his
It's not even
intent
Gerim or
is that to
second-class
eventually
citizen.
make her a Baal Tshuva. You're saying because the wife is Jewish, he's
No,
a
the wife. Okay, don't say the wife is not Jewish. He's Jewish. He's Jewish. The wife is not Jewish.
Okay, well, Bezdin would not,
The Danish is
Bezdin would probably not Megayer him if he's married to someone who's not
The guy
Jewish
or
and
her,
is not.
I mean, the guy or
No, you
her.
said she's not Jewish.
She's
and
not Jewish. He's Jewish.
Oh,
But
okay.
you know, he's a go ahead. I'm telling you, doesn't hold any of the halacha.
Okay, so I said, Reb Chaim Ozer didn't define what it meant, borer lanu. What he said, if it's apparent to Bezdin that despite what he's saying to us, we know for sure that he's not going to keep the mitzvahs, that's considered a defect in Kabbalas mitzvahs, and Bezdin would not be Megayer. That's what Reb Chaim Ozer says so far.
So if you know the guy's a Ramaim, and he says, I wanna do everything, he's out.
He said if it's clear that his heart is not with him, he's not sincere.
Yeah, but you don't know, the guy says to you, I'm not gonna do everything, but you know, he's not a truthful guy.
That's exactly what Reb Chaim Ozer said, and said that you should, in that case, you should not be Megayer.
So then it's really incumbent on Bezdin to really give him an attorney giving him
They do.
cross-examination.
They do. Now, Rav Moshe Feinstein in Igros Moshe concurs that in the event there was no genuine acceptance of mitzvos, the conversion is entirely invalid. Now we're going to see, Walter, there's going to be more lenient opinions. We're staking out what the sort of the normative opinion is. Okay, so the Hog Ger
Yes,
Kish.
the boy doesn't have from Lo Lishma Ba Lishma.
He once he's a Jew, he'll have that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He doesn't have the presumption. He doesn't start the presumption. The hager kishlo kibel av digduk echarei makabel so keditzav b'choros umashmak shagam kishikibel so eno ger mi lo husker shebediavad ger. Even after the fact, it doesn't state that bediavad is considered a convert. That even if the court event accepted him, he's not a valid convert. So it doesn't state that later on, that he's still a ger. I'm going to read footnote 5. The related issue of one who declares that he or she accepts the Torah completely, but is strongly suspected that the declaration is insincere, it's exactly what we've been discussed, is discussed more fully below in the section on conversion for the sake of marriage. And there'll be another tshuva of Rav Moshe, where he will discuss the same thing. Now, some authorities bring proof for this position from the wording of the Shulchan Aruch itself, who writes that the acceptance of mitzvos is critical and invalidates the conversion if not performed properly. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Kol inyanei ager, all the various dinim of ager, bein lo hodi'u mitzvos lekablam. That means you have to inform him of the mitzvahs that he has to accept. And bein amila and bein atfil, the circumcision and the immersion. Tzarech sheyu begimel aksherim lodun. So first of all, it has to be done in front of 3 people who are authorized to be dayanim. For example, when we do Hataras Nedarim before Rosh Hashanah, we do not have to do our statement in front of Gimel Aksherim Lodun. We can do it in front of Gimel Hedyotos. When we 3 sit there, we are al Hedyotos. We don't have qualifications to sit as a dayan on a Beis Din. Even someone with smicha, unless he has Yodin Yodin, doesn't sit on a Beis Din to adjudicate monetary cases, etc. That's what he's referring to here. That Gerus takes place in front of a Beis Din, who's Ksherim Lodun. That's one, and we'll go into some of the ramifications of that. And
They
he
have to
says,
know, the question is, what do they have to know? They go to school, but they have the 3 basic things, Shabbos, Taryag, Mitzvah, Shabbos, Kashrus, and
Taras HaMishpach.
They don't know all the six.
So we'll see. We'll see what they have to know. Hang on. So tzarch shiu begimel ksherim lodun uvayom. It's a ma'aseh bezdin. You know, bezdin doesn't work at night. It works only in the daytime. That's minat Torah. So it has to be done in the daytime. Now, miu davka lechatchila. These are all lechatchila dik. Aval b'di'evedim lo imalu tovel ele b'fnei beis or krovim uvalayla. Let's say he did mila or tefillah only in front of two people, or relatives, right, who would be puzzled by Beis Din, or if it was done at night. Afilu lo tovel l'shem gerus, and even if the tefillah wasn't done specifically for gerus, Elisha tovel l'keria, for example, he was a balkari, he had a seminal mission, he went to the mikveh for that, or Isha shetovel l'nidasa, or she was a woman who went after, because she was a nida into a mikveh. And for example, she's learning how to do that because she's not really a Jew yet. But let's say we found out that she was toivel, but it wasn't done l'shem gerus, havi ger. The ger is a good. Umuter
So the
b'Yisraelis.
conservative rabbis would be okay.
Chutz mikabolas hamitzvos shema'akeves im eina b'yom u'v'shlosha. We're lenient regarding conversion and immersion. But regarding Kabbalas HaMitzvahs, it's ma'akev if you don't have 3 kosher lodum. A conservative reform wouldn't be kosher lodum according to normative Allah. And I do want to say that I was zocha to participate a number of times in performing mila for adults, gerim, who needed circumcision as part of their gerus process. But we did it under anesthesia, and there was a time that at Sentinel Hospital there was a Chabad, Orthodox Chabadnik, who was the anesthesiologist, and Rabbi Korupkin was serving as the intermediary for the Gerus. And there is a Hidur. We just saw the Shulchan Aruch said that the Mila doesn't necessarily have to be done Lifnei Beis Din. But doing Mila Lifnei Beis Din, see what the Shulchan Aruch says, that even the Mila and the Tefillah should be done Begimel HaKsheres Lodom. So we performed a fair number of Mila Bifnei Beis Din, because I was there, and the anesthesiologist, and Rabbi Korupkin was there, and even the Mila was done Lifnei Beis Din. Certainly Tefillah is done Lifnei Beis Din. They have a sheet, and that Beis Din goes to the mikveh to do it. But it's not a common thing that Mila is done Bifnei Beis Din. But it was in Los Angeles for a period of time.
If it's
Under
If it's
general
done
anesthesia.
under anesthesia, how do you handle the bracha of Mila?
Well, you could,
When,
the
when
moil
individual
makes the
wakes
bracha.
up? Yeah, but the individual has to respond, doesn't he?
So he does it in the recovery room, and he gives a name. They have a cup there, and he makes it.
That's not his name.
Now, the problem with this ruling, as noted by the Achronim, is that it contradicts another ruling of the Shulchan Aruch, citing the Nemuke Yosef, that not informing potential converts about the mitzvos that they must keep does not render the conversion invalid post facto. That means it seems now that you got to inform him. And that's a ma'akev. The Shulchan Aruch, what we just quoted, said if you didn't inform him about all the mitzvahs, there's a lack of kabbalas mitzvahs, and it would be a problem. But let's see the other Shulchan Aruch in your day.
You have to go
doesn't
through every
invalidate.
single mitzvah with them?
We'll see.
It
No,
says it doesn't invalidate.
he said, "Chutz mikabolas hamitzvah shema'akeves
That's
in
not
ena b'yom
valid.
v'shlosha." It is ma'akev if you didn't do the
not valid.
if the kabolas hamitzvahs was not done properly, it renders it invalid. Is what he said. The b'di'evid, if the Mila and Tefillah was not done like l'shem gerus, wasn't done l'fnei gimel, we say b'di'evid is good. But the kabolas mitzvahs have to be done properly. Now, says the Shulchan Aruch in Yud Beis, v'im lo bodku achrav. Let's say they did not investigate him, or shalohu diu schara mitzvahs oinsham, or they didn't go through all the reward and punishment of mitzvahs. Umal v'tovim b'fnei gimel had yotos. He did the Mila and Gimel in front of not dayonim, but 3 regular people. Still, harei ger. Afilu noda shebishvil davar hu mizkar. Even if later on it becomes known that he was converting for an ulterior reason. the usual ulterior reason is for marriage. They want to get married. Because hoilu mal v'toval yotza michlala odikachon. So he says like this: once you have mila and tefillah, you're no longer considered a non-Jew. You're in a limbo state. You're not an ovid kachavin. The choishes shelo.
Not in a limbo state, he became a Jew.
We'll see in a minute. It's a state. Right now, let's see what the Shulchan Aruch says.
Then it's not.
He says he says yotza michlala odikachavin. Didn't say he's a Jew yet. He says he's no longer a non-Jew. But the choishes shelo ad shenizbor tzidkaso. We have to wait and see, is he going to be a genuine Jew?
He
Vafilu.
says over here,
Now, vafilu chazar v'avad alim Yisrael mishumat shekidush and kiddush. So he's saying the Shulchan.
He's Jewish.
He is Jewish. He's no longer an Ovid Kachavim, but we suspect him until his righteousness isn't clarified. And then he.
Still can get married to another Jewish woman.
Now, I would say that the Shulchan Aruch a little bit is being soiser himself, and the Chronim are going to comment. There seems to be a little bit of a stira, because he says he's not a full Jew yet. He's just yotzei Ovid Kachavim. And then he says, we wait until we see whether he's bitzit koso, which seems to imply that if we wait and we see that he's not bitzit koso,
He's not a
the Jew doesn't. Yet the next statement he says is, if we see him worshiping Avodah Zarah, he's a Yisrael mummer. The nafkamina would be, if he gave the kiddushin, does that woman need a get or not? He would, because it's like any other Jew who becomes non-religious, he's still a Jew. So there's a little stira in the Shulchan Aruch right there. So
Because you give a mitzvah, if you give Asra, that means.
the other thing is, here he said, even if we didn't inform him of the mitzvahs, initially the Geras is okay. That seems to also go against what the Shulchan Aruch said here, where if there was a problem in the Kabbalah's mitzvahs, it is an ikuv. So what is it? So the Chemdas Shlomo resolves this seeming contradiction by distinguishing between informing a potential convert about the mitzvahs and his acceptance of the mitzvahs. Two dinim. There's a din that you have to inform him, and then there's a din that he has to be makabel. Two separate things. Ach ladati nira pashut ubor, de'en kakush sheklal. The Kabbalah's mitzvahs, there's no problem here, because the act of accepting mitzvahs, hu shemakabel alav bistam likanis bedas Yisrael. Person says, I want to become Jewish. Once you say that, there's already a lot of different things that fall onto a person. It's a stam acceptance that he says, I want to join the religion of the Jews. V'lasos kechol haTorah v'mitzvahs. He understands that by becoming a Jew, there's a concept of Torah and Tariq mitzvahs. He makes a general acceptance. However, Hodasa mitzvah, that's a Kabbalah. And he might say, I am being makabel to be Das Yisrael. However, Hodasa mitzvahs, when Bezdin informs him, hu shiodiolo echus v'chumrus, he has to be informed about the quality of certain mitzvahs and the stringencies. K'mo shekosov b'gemor b'tchila achalta chelev. And chilalta Shabbos, yata niskal. He explains that if you eat chelev, you get kores, but you get malchus if you did it b'mezi. If you machal Shabbos, you get skila. You have to explain to that level of detail. What's the schar v'onish of mitzvahs? Avodah zarah kosev shapir. So al zeh kosev sheshapir she'eno dasa mitzvahs ma'akev. That's why the Shulchan Aruch said in the second piece we quoted that hodasa mitzvahs is not ma'akev. She'eno dasa mitzvahs ma'akev. Rabbeinu HaGadol b'Shulchan HaTorah, Shulchan Aruch said be'er ladeh hodasha schar mitzvahs v'onish, that you have to say the reward and punishment. Aval la'olam kabbalas mitzvahs. Of course you need a Kabbalah. That you need. Now let's expand on that. According to the Chemdas Shlomo, the Shulchan Aruch ruling in source 5, right? The original source we quoted refers to the convert's acceptance of the mitzvahs, which is required, and invalidates the conversion if performed improperly or not at all. On the other hand, in the second source of the Shulchan Aruch, refers to the judges informing the convert about the nature and severity of the mitzvahs. That, if the Chachamim didn't do it, does not invalidate the conversion, if it's not done provided that the convert agreed to accept in totality the Torah and all of its mitzvahs. If they didn't do this detailed thing, that doesn't ruin the conversion. So based on what we've seen, it seems that an improper or only partial acceptance of mitzvahs would invalidate the gerus. However, we must still determine the extent of this rule. Does this mean that the admission of a convert that he or she will be incapable of filling one detailed aspect of the halacha would invalidate the entire conversion? So Rav Moshe addressed this issue in the next source. In this tshuva, he discusses the case of a woman in the process of converting who was considering working on the upcoming yontiv for fear of being fired. It means her gerus was occurring a few weeks before a certain yontiv, and she was going to become a ger, but she was worried in her mind that maybe I might have to work because I'll get fired. Rav Moshe rules that such intentions would not render the conversion invalid. Similarly, if a Gentile wishes to convert, but declares his uncertainty as to whether he would give up his life rather than violate the 3 cardinal sins, his conversion is valid. It's phenomenal, meaning...
So it's under
we-
duress.
well, no. We, as Jews, can violate any mitzvah in the Torah to save our life, except for 3.
Right.
Murder, avodah zarah, and sexual immorality. Where if somebody puts a gun to your head and says, do this, you're supposed to let the guy shoot you.
Yeah.
So in Gerus, he doesn't. That's not a ma'akev for him. If he says, I'm not sure I would give up my life, you could still convert him. Says Rav Moshe. He reasons that if one truly wishes to follow the halacha, but feels compelled to transgress the prohibition due to extenuating circumstance, still the kabbalas hamitzvos is valid. Mistaber mashmos kamet vorm the ger shekibel kol hamitzvos. We're talking about a ger who accepted all the mitzvahs. He didn't say, I'm accepting Yiddishkeit except for this mitzvah, which I'm not interested in. He didn't do that. He accepted the totality of mitzvahs. But he said to Bezdin, he said, I don't think I could withstand the giving up my life. He says it's not an invalidation of the Kabbalah mitzvahs. He accepted the thing that you have to do the mitzvahs, so that he wasn't going to be in a forced situation. He just recognized a defect in him that he might not be able to stand in Nisayon. He might have a desire to be Mekayim, but he knows himself. Even not being able to withstand a test regarding financial matters, the same rule would apply. He also, I'm reading the footnote. He also considers the possibility, although he doesn't rule decisively, that a woman who converts but does not plan to cover her hair, because many women in her community do not do so, despite the fact that according to accepted halacha, a married woman is required to cover her hair, she's still a valid convert. Here too, perhaps the lack of acceptance is not fundamental. It's simply a result of a lack of understanding of the halacha. And he cites the Gemara in Shabbos 68, where a person converted while living among the Gentiles, and the conversion is still valid, as long as there was a good acceptance of the mitzvahs. Okay, so I think we are getting a feel tonight for the issues involved. They're complicated issues. And even the various shuvas that we've been through, sometimes the getter is not clear. Okay, let's talk about conversion for...
If a woman says, look, I'm converting, but I don't want to work on Shabbos, but I might have to, or otherwise I'm going to get fired. At least in her thoughts, she doesn't want to work. But that's
exactly what
what
Moshe
you're
says.
saying.
Yes.
So whenever you come to that kind of situation, it's not really
He was still makabel. He was still
makabel.
makabel. There was a true kabbalah mitzvahs in that case, as Rav Moshe.
By the way, you could interpret that as me lo lishma ma lishma. She doesn't know if she'll be able to stand by it, but we are still makabel it
Because we figure that she will
She will
develop into it.
into it. So that's, so there you have a situation where, because she doesn't know, she says she wants to, but she's not sure, so you have that,
You have a little bit of it.
yeah.
We still don't know just what do you have to teach him, which of the mitzvahs you have to know. Okay, you know,
We'll get there. This is a long sugya.
I mean, you could-
What about conversion for the sake? What about the conversion for the sake of marriage or other motives? So there's been widespread assimilation among the Jewish people in recent times. There are many Jews who consider marrying a Gentile. In some of these cases, the Gentile may decide to convert for various practical reasons rather than solely due to a desire to become Jewish. Is conversion with such intention considered acceptable? So this is discussed in Masechta Gerim. There is a Masechta in one like Masechta K in Masechta Soifrim, Masechta Gerim. So it's not in Talmud Bavli, but it's in one of the smaller Masechtas. Kol hamizgayer l'shum isha. If someone is converting because they want to marry someone, or l'shum ava, or love, or l'shum yira, eino ger. That's a problem in the Kerus. V'chenai Rabbi Yehuda Rav Nechemia oimrim, kol oisam shnizgar b'mei Mordechai ve'Esther, because everyone was afraid. Einam gerim. Shenemar v'Rabbi mamei ha'aretz misyadim. Many of the people tried to become Jews. Ki nafal pachad hayrim aleihem. V'chol she'enim izgar l'shem shamayim eino ger. We see in his heart, he's not really doing it. L'shem shamayim, it's not a good convert. So from this source, it's clear that a conversion performed simply for the purpose of marriage is invalid. Question is whether such a ruling is accepted by the Gemara or not. The Gemara Masechta Yevamos appears to indicate that such individuals are in fact considered converts, at least b'di'evet. It's not l'chatchila, but after the fact, they would be considered gerim. Says the Mishnah.
What about the Yevonim that were,
We will see from them. Hanitin ala shivcha v'nishtachara.
That seems to be what the Shulchan Aruch said, because when he said it's.
Let's say there was a shivcha knanis working in somebody's house, and he was suspected of fooling around with her. And then later she got freed. The freeing of the shivcha was a conversion process. She became Jewish through that. Or she was fooling around with a goyish neighbor, and then all of a sudden we see that she converted. Harei zeh lo yichnos. So he's not allowed to marry her. It means if he comes to the Rav, and the Rav knows of this, he should not marry them. However, im konas, he ended up going somewhere else, and somebody married him, and then they come back, and motzin miyadav. So we don't force a divorce. It's not like Cohen marries a grusha, so you force a divorce, or any kind of marriage that lechatchila we wouldn't do, and b'di'evid we wouldn't do. But in this case, b'di'evid we accept it. Says the Gemara, you notice the Mishnah didn't say anything about, it just said, could you marry them or not? Should you marry them or not? It didn't say that the conversion was invalid, right? Hagioris mi'avya. It didn't say, because they were fooling around, and then afterwards she converted, and so we see the conversion was for reasons of marriage or love. We didn't say that the gerus is a problem. V'minu. Ba'asyu Akasha says the Gemara, Echad ish nizgar l'shumisha, v'echad ish nizgar l'shumish, which is the quote for the Masechta Gerim, V'chimish nizgar l'shum shulchan malachim. Or he, like in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, where there was wealth, and people wanted him a geyer so they could get a good job, right? L'shum avdei Shlomo, einam gerim, Rav Nechemia. Shai Rav Nechemia Omer, Echad gerei arayos. So the Kusim, right, the Shomronim, were brought in from a different place to populate the area, and because there was an attack of lions, they all converted. So that's out of fear. So Echad gerei arayos, Echad gerei chaloimos. Or let's say somebody saw in a dream that they should convert. Or Echad gerei Mordechai ve'Esther, because again, people were afraid. Einam gerim. Ad she's gerim bisman hazeh. They have to be converted bisman. What does that mean? Bisman hazeh? What do you mean bisman hazeh? Ela'ema ki bisman hazeh, meaning kivyameinu. A person, we will accept converts when the Jews are despised people. We're in Golus, we're chaste. So why would want to become Jew, if they're becoming Jewish, even under that circumstance, it's l'shem shamayim. It must be that they have the right intent, as opposed, for example, during David and Shlomo, when the Jewish kingdom was at its height, and we wouldn't accept them because people were coming for ulterior motives. That's what it means with Bisman Hazeh. So the V'raminu is, why wasn't the Mishnah concerned about the Gerus? The Mishnah only mentioned, don't marry them. They didn't say, the Gerus is a problem. What about Rav Nechemia, who said if you convert because of marriage or love or something like that, it's a problem in the Gerus. So Ha'itbar Allah, Rav Yizak Bar Shmuel Bar Marta Mishpei Rav, Allah Ketivra Omer Kulam Gerim. And it says over there that what's the halacha? The halacha is that they are gerim, but then why only be the evid if it's gerim? Why shouldn't be lechatchilanami? We should be allow it. Mishum Ravasi, Dom Ravasi, haser mimcha ikshus, remove from you troublesome things, peh ulazus v'sayim harchek mimech, and like a crooked lips, stay away from. Torah Rabbanan. Ein makablim gerim l'masa Mashiach. You know what? People better convert quickly, because once Mashiach comes, we won't accept gerim anymore. It's going to be like David u'Shlomo. K'yotzebo, lo kiblu gerim, lo b'mei David, lo b'mei Shlomo. On Rabbi Lazar, Mikra, hein gur yoger eves me'osim migari tachalach yipo. Aval idich, lo. But if somebody else wants to convert, when Hashem is really misgala to everybody, will not be accepted. So the Gemara side of Rav Nechemia is saying that one who converts for the purpose of marriage is not considered a convert. It raised the contradiction against the Mishnah, which seemed to indicate that the conversion was valid. So the Gemara responded is that the halacha is not in accordance with Rav Nechemia. Rav Nechemia was a das yochid who said that it's not good gerus, but the halacha is like the opinion that says that they are accepted. So and therefore it goes along with the Mishnah, the conversion is valid. But l'chatchila, we wouldn't marry them due to the suspicion. So if so, it would seem that the ruling Masechta Gerim is not accepted, where Masechta Gerim says we don't accept if they got married for love and marriage. Now, based on this, one might argue that a Gentile who converts for the sake of marrying a Jew would be accepted as a valid convert. However, one might distinguish that in the Gemara's case, perhaps the Gentile truly wanted to become Jewish and accept the Torah, even if the immediate reason was to marry a Jew. By contrast, nowadays, our Gentiles have no interest in accepting the Torah and its commandments, and may simply declare this so to be allowed to marry into the Jewish community. Would such a conversion in our day be acceptable according to the Gemara? So perhaps we can resolve this question based on a comment of the Ritva on the passage we just quoted, concerning those that converted due to fear of lions. With regard to which the Gemara concluded that the halacha does not follow Rav Nechemia, we said that even if they convert because of lions, we accept them. That was the maskon of the Gemara. Says the Ritva, Hikshu b'toisvois, Toisvos asked, Kiven de Gerarayos, Gerinein, Rabbanon, since it came out from the maskon of the Gemara, that really, even people who converted because they were fearful, we say that they're Gerim, according to Chachamim, Lama Amru Shehem Kagoyim. Now, we know that Kusim were viewed as Gentiles. If they touched wine, it became Yain Nesech. If they touched bread, you couldn't eat it. So I understand. There's a steer, says Tosfos, if the Gerei Arayos are good Jews, why were all these chumras made against the Kusim that they were really treated like Gentiles? Right? Also, we have throughout Shas where we've been learning, Kusim, they're treated like Goyim. Why is that? Why should that be? Lamandar Gerei Arayos saying Vitir Tzu. So the Ritva is explaining that the Tosfos, who saw this stira, resolved it. The shiny Hossam, it's different over there. Shakosuf Omer Aleim v'es Eloheim Hayu Oivdim. Loimar Shalom is Garbalev Shalom Ha'olam V'lo Kiblu Aleim. Means really the Kusim, they had another source that showed them that they never really accepted Yiddishkeit fully. Now Uman the Machshir Hossam, the one who's over there said the Gerei Arayos are okay, sovereign in Nisgar B'lev Shalom. As long as if they were Nisgar B'lev Shalom, even out of fear, that would be okay. Chazru L'Sura, he thought that maybe the initial Gerus was okay, it's just that they fell backwards later on and they became, not religious. Aval Hacha Kivan Nisgaru, the Kiblu Alem and there was a good acceptance of mitzvahs. Chazaka hu da'agul insayu gamru v'kiblu v'avagav d'machos oines ha'vegerusu alibid rabbanon. There's no question that even though they did it out of fear, the Chachamim would say that the gerus is still a good gerus. So according to the Ritva, the Chachamim hold that the case of the Shomronim, the Kusim, did not involve a sincere conversion. By contrast, the Gemara's conclusion that other conversions due to fear of lions are valid is limited to where sincere acceptance of mitzvahs also took place, even if the motive for the acceptance was fear. So gentlemen, here we are so far. He wanted to become Jewish out of fear. But now that he's converting, he's wholeheartedly converting. He's converting because he wants to accept the mitzvahs. Likewise, according to the Ritva, it would seem that the case of conversion for the sake of marriage that is disputed in the Gemara should also be limited to where one also performed a genuine acceptance of mitzvahs. So therefore, it comes out according to the Ritva. This is Dr. Agatstein. Who is this? Dad, I'm in the middle of a shiur, the Tzurim Rabbanon shiur right now. So you'll have to call me back. Thank you. So coming out so far is that even if a person's intent is to marry someone, that was wise, but at the time that he comes, he has a sincere Kabbalah mitzvahs that would apply the same way as Gerei Arayos. Right? Based on this, understand, Rav Yitzchak Shmelchus writes in the Beis Yitzchak that if one converts solely for the sake of marriage and does not intend to keep the mitzvahs, the conversion is invalid. But if he comes and he has intention to keep the mitzvahs, the conversion would be valid, even though that's, from our analysis of the sources today, it's very clear. We saw the sheet of Rav Nechemia, but we reject the sheet of Rav Nechemia. Gerei Arayos they are gerim as long as there's a sincere acceptance of the mitzvahs, and that's how we've let. That's how we.
In other words, the woman goes in front of a rabbi. She's marrying a Jewish guy.
Yes.
Okay? And the rabbi tells
And
her-
she sincerely wants to accept the mitzvahs.
No, she didn't say that.
Then-
She says, "I want to marry this Jewish man."
If that's all not, and what
The
about
rabbis, you gotta
and what
say-
about they say, would you accept the mitzvahs? No, I'll get out of
I
here.
don't know anything about the mitzvahs yet.
But once we talk about the mitzvahs, if she's willing to accept it, then they would be Makai.
Listen, Gaius takes
Yeah, you have to go through
years.
education too, you have to go to classes. and-
sometimes it can take 5 years for these people to be Mitzvah. They especially drag them out a long time.
On purpose, yeah.
I mean, they live together for 5 years when they get married.
Says the Beis Yitzchak.
And then they have to separate.
This is an important Beis Yitzchak.
They have to separate.
Hine begufa davar, the in this gair l'shum to'eles, the lalocha kulum geri. According to the way the Beis Yitzchak sees the Gemara, that whenever they convert for some ulterior motive, it's still a good gerus. Kosav beridva b'shem Ramban, b'tama davar, who gave the reason, kivan disgar v'kiblu aleim, chazaka hu da'agav unsayu gomer v'kiblu. Because of the pressure on them, whatever that ulterior motive was, they accepted it. Fine, there was an external pressure, but there was they were makabelit. Muchach dal kolponim boy shikablu b'leiv sholem ha-mitzvahs. But they need a sincere conversion. They need a sincere kabbalah ha-mitzvahs. Masha'en kain im megaya rak lifnechem. V'libo balim alachzik b'mitzvahs v'anayodim kavanas. Again, we have that same thing that the Achiezer said. If we see that he's not sincere, he's not interested in keeping the mitzvahs, we'll not be megaya him. He's not going to care about nidus. He's not going to wear Shabbos, voichel trevis, lo havi ger klal. The ger is not a good ger. Normally we say in halacha, things in your heart are einam dvarim. It's only if you say something. What's in a person's heart? There's no halachic ramifications. So even though we normally say that, so the question is, the Beis Yitzchak is saying, why are we worrying what's in the guy's heart? What about the halachic principle of dvarim shebalev einam dvarim? But Hashem wants the ger's heart. It's a different thing. It's different than in halachic thinking. If I'm just maharer after something, it's not considered a sin. But regarding gerus, Hashem wants the ger's heart. And if his heart is not sincere, it's no real gerus. So the Beis Yitzchak argues that not only would a conversion be invalid if the convert declares clearly that it is being performed solely for the sake of marriage, but the same applies when it is clear that this is his intention, even if it's not explicated. It's the same thing that the Achiezer said. Sometimes we don't, even if he doesn't say it, if his actions and whatever the circumstances we see around this guy, it's clear that he's going to be a boil nida and a machal Shabbos and everything like that, the Bezdin has a right not to be misguided him. And the Talmudic principle disregarding mental intent is not applicable in this content. Normally, we have a principle, we don't care what's in a person's heart. Not here. Now, others, such as Rav Kook, argue that the principle of mental intent having no significance is applicable even with regard to gerus. Therefore, Rav Kook rules that if the convert accepted the mitzvahs verbally, he may be converted even if he did so primarily for no ulterior reason. And even though the Bezdin suspects that his acceptance was not genuine, because of the principle that you can reject what's in a person's heart because it doesn't have halachic validity, you can accept the gerus. So obviously a big hula in gerus. Let's see the Das Kohen. The Das Kohen is the Shalos and Shuvas of Rav Kook. Kozman shahaisa kabbalah bepeh karoi. And if you think about it, we talked about it even when we learned the Achiezer. What's the get there? How, if the Achiezer also said, if even though he said verbally everything what he's supposed to say, if somehow we suspect, we reject him. And we asked about half hour ago, what's the get there? I think really that's what Rav Kook is getting at. This is what we perceive. His speech in Bezdin. So if he had a proper Kabbalah b'peh karoi, yesh loymar she'en lanu inyan im dvarim shebelev. I suspect that we should have nothing to do with what's in his heart. She'enam dvarim klal. Just like there's a general rule, a person in his heart says, I'm going to eat treifus. But he doesn't eat treifus. It's not considered as if he ate treifus. Or any something that a person has is here.
Even though he says, I'm going to accept all the mitzvahs, but we're saying...
Not even though.
Huh?
Rav Kook gives us the rule. If in his mouth, in Bezin, when we ask him, are you going to accept the mitzvahs? He says yes, that's all we listen to. What's in his heart is not our issue. Which is not what, which is not what Beis Yitzchak said. No, it's not the normative halacha. And I'm sure that the modern day poskim will argue with Rav Kook.
lived in Israel at
Yes.
that time, right? Where the majority of people that were not that. It was a very small.
Right. But the question, how many converts did Rav Kook have to deal with?
So, I mean, so
Probably not a
anyone who
lot.
wants to convert, all you do is you tell your spouse, you tell them you're gonna marry.
Say these words.
Whatever you do, say, yes, I'm going to accept all mitzvahs, and that's it.
This is Rav Kook. This is not how today certain Beis Dinim will follow. What we have a gadol who we can rely on. So there might be Beis Dinim who will be Magai according to this principle. And they have Rav Kook to rely on. There's nothing wrong with that. But
we don't apply
the
that
Beis Din,
now.
I'm not sure we're going to see in the Rabbanut in Israel follows this principle.
If we don't accept it,
No, not when no, we don't. What goes on in the Dvarim Shebelev ain't on Dvarim.
No.
That's the principle.
Accept.
Dvarim Shebelev,
Accept
that
the
means
pig-
your
accept the
intent
pig
is
of
ain't
the
on
others.
Dvarim.
Except the pigel and
That
the-
has halachic
well, wait a second, I have a
ramification.
little question here. If we don't accept Rav Kook,
There,
I do.
Pigel Neusser there as well, Elazar, was spoken out. Remember, otherwise we wouldn't know. He says, I'm shechting to do the Zrika tomorrow. Otherwise, if he never revealed it, we don't know that it's Neusser. So eventually it was revealed.
If he tells you later that he did that.
It's also so, but oftentimes it was done like Hareini. We do a Hineni Muchanim Zuman. That's the way they did things. I'm shechting now l'shem shlami. Remember, that's why the Gemara sometimes says stam. That means silently.
If the Kohen had the wrong machshava and he agreed that, yeah,
Their
that's pigel.
Dvarim Shebelev is Dvarim, but in general Dvarim Shebelev is not Dvarim.
So if we don't accept Rav Kook's opinion, some won't. Does that mean that person's ger was no good?
No, the Gerus
Means
would
that
not
the
be
people who did it
is not
would
valid
not
to
be
begin with. They would not be Megayirim, as we said. No matter what he said, even if he said I'm in Makabal and Mitzvahs, if we see through other evidence, like you said, a person's wife or what's around him or what we think is going to happen when he goes home, they would not be
No,
Megayirim.
Rav Kook said it's okay.
Rav Kook said we can
So
ignore
what I'm
what's in his heart.
saying, does that mean the one that he converted Rav Kook, where the person said I will, and they never did, does that mean that you take away the
No,
conversion?
no.
Then why did they do it with the Russian Jews? Why did they remove
Who did remove it from? We didn't remove anything. Hang on.
That conversion is-
ואפילו יבוא אלינו ויגיד לנו שהיה בלבובו אחרת מאשר בפיו אין לנו עסק כלל in דבורים שבלב. So that's the sheet of Rav Kook. And listen, we are just beginning to scratch the surface. But I think we're seeing the sources that we need to know.
Is there any other person over here besides Susie? Can we
Yeah,
still keep
well,
them in the meeting?
Well, yes. Did anybody have in mind?